Before Washington, D.C. existed, the capital of the United States was actually New York City. For a brief but pivotal period, the nation's government operated out of Federal Hall on Wall Street. It was here that George Washington took the oath of office as the first president, and where Congress passed some of the earliest laws that shaped the young republic. In fact, some of the most important moments in American history happened right there in New York, laying the foundation for the country we know today.
Today, New York City is known as the financial capital of the world. But few people realize that, briefly in the late 18th century, New York served as the very first capital of the United States. Before Washington, D.C. was even conceived, the young nation's leaders gathered in this bustling port city to chart the course of a new republic. It was here, at Federal Hall, that George Washington took the oath of office as the first president, and where Congress debated and passed some of the earliest laws that defined the foundations of American democracy.
In 1783, the American colonies had just won independence from Britain after the Revolutionary War. The victory marked the birth of a new nation, the United States of America. Yet freedom brought with it a daunting challenge: how to transform 13 separate colonies into a unified country. Leaders now faced the urgent task of creating a functioning government, one strong enough to hold the states together, but balanced enough to protect the liberties they had just fought so hard to secure. At first, the United States operated under the Articles of Confederation. This framework created only a loose union of states, with a central government that was deliberately kept weak. Congress had very little authority. It could not levy taxes, regulate trade between states, or enforce its decisions. As a result, the young nation struggled to pay off war debts, manage commerce, and ensure national security. The limitations of this system quickly became clear, revealing the need for a stronger foundation to hold the country together. In 1785, the Confederation Congress relocated its meeting place to New York City. The move was strategic. New York's central location made it accessible to delegates from across the states, while its bustling port connected the young nation to international trade. The government convened at Federal Hall on Wall Street in Manhattan, a building that quickly became the symbolic heart of American politics. Within its chambers, delegates gathered to debate laws, manage the nation's fragile finances, and chart the uncertain course of the republic. Federal Hall stood not only as a meeting place, but also as a stage where the ideals of democracy were tested, and the foundations of the United States were strengthened through spirited discussion and compromise. In 1787, delegates from across the states gathered in Philadelphia to address the weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation. After months of intense debate and compromise, they produced a new constitution, one that established a stronger federal government with a president, a bicameral Congress, and a Supreme Court to interpret the laws. Once ratified by the states, this new system required not only leaders to guide it, but also a permanent seat of government where the republic could truly take shape. On April 30th, 1789, George Washington stood on the balcony of Federal Hall in New York City and took the oath of office as the first president of the United States. The ceremony was a defining moment, symbolizing the transition from revolution to governance. Thousands of citizens crowded the streets below, eager to witness history as the new republic officially began under its Constitution. Washington's inauguration not only marked the birth of the American presidency, but also set the tone for a government built on unity, leadership, and democratic ideals. New York now hosted the very first United States Congress, a gathering that marked the dawn of a new nation's governance. Within its chambers, lawmakers debated and passed the first federal laws, laying down rules that would bind the states together. They created executive departments to manage the country's affairs and establish the foundations of the American government, structures that still endure today. It was here that the ideals of the revolution began to take shape in practical governance, transforming vision into reality. During this formative period, Congress also began drafting what would become the Bill of Rights, a landmark set of amendments designed to safeguard individual liberty. The first 10 amendments enshrined protections such as freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and the right to fair trials. They were not merely legal clauses, but enduring principles meant to ensure that the new republic would balance power with justice. Even today, these guarantees remain the bedrock of American democracy, echoing the vision of the nation's founders. Despite its importance, New York did not remain the capital for long. In 1790, a pivotal political compromise determined that the permanent capital would move south to a newly planned federal city along the Potomac River. This decision reflected the delicate balance between northern and southern interests, ensuring that the seat of government would stand as neutral ground. The move marked the birth of Washington, D.C., envisioned as a city built not just of stone and streets, but of ideals, an enduring symbol of unity for the young republic. That new city would eventually become Washington, D.C., the capital we recognize today. Yet before its grand construction could begin, the government needed a temporary home. For a decade, the nation's leaders convened in Philadelphia, carrying out the work of governance while the foundations of the new federal city were laid along the Potomac. This transitional period symbolized both continuity and anticipation as the young republic awaited the rise of its permanent capital. Although New York served as the nation's capital for only a few short years, its influence on the birth of the United States was profound. On April 30th, 1789, George Washington stood on the balcony of Federal Hall to take the oath of office as the first president, a moment that symbolized the dawn of a new republic. Within those same walls, the first Congress convened, laying the foundations of American governance. It was here that James Madison introduced the amendments that became the Bill of Rights, securing liberties that remain central to American identity. Beyond politics, New York's colonial streets and harbors reflected the diversity and energy of a young nation. Merchants, sailors, and citizens filled the city, making it a vibrant hub of commerce and culture. Though the capital soon moved to Philadelphia and later Washington, D.C., New York's brief tenure left an indelible mark on the nation's history. New York's time as the nation's capital may have been brief, but its legacy is timeless. From Washington's oath to the birth of the Bill of Rights, the city became the stage where America's ideals first took shape. Though the capital moved on, New York's role in shaping the republic remains a cornerstone of its history, reminding us that even short chapters can leave lasting marks on the story of a nation.